Good morning. There we go. Good morning to all of you, both the ones here in the sanctuary and then also those of you that are watching on YouTube. Welcome to the June 19th Sunday service of the Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. My name is John Motter. I'm a member of this church and also sit on the worship committee. Our Reverend, Ben Atherton Zeman, is in Washington, D.C. Yesterday, he participated in the Poor People's and Low-Wage Earners Assembly and Moral March on Washington and to the polls. The Poor People's March is a much easier way to put it, but that's the official name. On the Sundays that he's not here, the worship committee is responsible for the service, and so you have me. I want to say Happy Father's Day to those of you that are lucky enough to be a father, and you may be a father by birth or a father by choice, but happy Father's Day to you. It took me many years to realize that my dad, Russell Motter, loved our family dearly in the way that he knew how. And I appreciate those times when I do something today and I think, oh my God, you are your dad. It's, you know, you always wonder growing up, like, oh, why are you doing this? And then you do it yourself. I also was lucky enough to have Jim Maurer as a role model. He was my stepfather. I knew him for about 10 years. He and my mom got married, and after 4.5 months, he passed away. But I was really lucky to have him in my life. And then Harvey Bentley. And Harvey married my mom, and they were married almost 30 years before his death. And from all of those father figures, I learned unbelievable wisdom that I'm still discovering. And so to those of you that are fathers, especially if you have younger teenage kids, because I'm thinking back to my teenage years, they may not like it now, but they'll appreciate it as they get older. So again, happy Father's Day. Joining me is Worship Associate Sabine Van Alek. She's on the Building and Grounds Committee, Tiny Homes for Vets. She does the Friday Night Sunset Supper. She'll be the new Assistant Treasurer. She does a little bit of everything, and so partly because she has a hard time saying no. So I knew when I needed to get a Worship Associate, I knew who to go to. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sabine.
Thanks, John. In Unitarian Universalism, you can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, your expansive heart. Together, we create a force more powerful than one person or one belief system. We strive to be united in our broad and inclusive outlook and in our values. As expressed in our 7 principles, we are united in our work for social justice, our quest to include the marginalized, our expressions of love. If you want a church that supports these ideals, then I have good news. You may have found your church home, because whoever you are, wherever you are in your journey, you are welcome here. Last week, we renewed a practice we did pre-COVID. So if you are new, and if you'd like, please stand and introduce yourself. You are under no obligation to say anything, but if you're willing, we'd love to hear from you. I'll repeat what you say to those online so that they can hear. Newcomers.
Hello, welcome.
Good morning. Did I hear Rebecca? Ash. Sounds just like Rebecca. Ashley, formerly known as Rebecca, but thank you for joining us today. Now let's take a moment to greet our neighbor. This can be a wave of the hand, a nod of the head, or more. But recognize that everyone's level or comfort around COVID is different. So please ask for consent if you're going to rub elbows, shake hands, or give a hug.
Yes, good luck. Yeah. And we had none mailed in. I'm glad we have at least one. Good, great. We only have one, none were mailed in until Jerry just gave me one, so we only have that one. And do you want me to drop it? Carol Omer's gonna. We have lots of greetings today. Only one kid? It's a good story for adults. So, thank you, Sabine. We have two announcements for today. There's other announcements both in your program and also on the webpage. But 2 weeks from today, which is going to be July 3rd, we will return to our worship team's Worship Cafe. It's something a little bit different for the holiday, and before we grew too large as a congregation, we occasionally met in Gilmore Hall, right to my left, to your right, on Sunday mornings for a more relaxed setting that we think will be fun for the upcoming holiday. So come at the regular time, 10:30, but come into Gilmore Hall, and we'll celebrate the blessing of freedom. And then next Saturday, June 25th, we will be teaming up with UU Clearwater to march in the St. Pete Pride Parade. Marchers are asked to be there by 3:30, and the kickoff will be between 4 and 4:30. We've rented a flatbed trailer and a pickup, so we'll have seating capacity for 18 people. I'll get you in just a second, but we'll have seating capacity for 18 people, so it's great if you can RSVP if you're coming, period, but especially if you need a seat on the trailer so we can make sure we're keeping count. And RSVP for everything. We'll have plenty of water, other drinks, some fruit, so you'll be hydrated. Make sure you bring hat, sunscreen, umbrella if you want. It's going to be hot. And we'll also have music, so it should be fun. Again, it starts early than usual. They've been doing it after sunset or close to sunset, but it's going to be a little bit earlier, so a lot more heat. Beth, did you? Yes, so there is, it's going to be posted. Good question. We just got the location and our map and the place where we're going to be setting up. I'm going to post to the to the Facebook page on where to meet up. If you RSVP, I'll send you the information back so you know where to meet up. It's kind of over by Vinoy Park, and we're lined up. They have us lined up in rows so that when they start the parade, we can all kind of funnel into Beach Drive. We'll go from there, and it ends up at the soccer field by the local little community airport. But again, RSVP, I'll get the information to you that way, or just look to the Facebook page, and that'll show you where to go. I'll post a little map on there. But it should be a good time. And it's the 20th anniversary. They are expecting 300,000 people this year. We are the 17th largest Pride parade, and they expect this year we're going to hit the top 10. So it's a big deal. And it's nice that we're partnering with UU Clearwater. Today's worship celebrates Juneteenth. Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in September of 1862. The actual law took effect on January 1st of 1863. However, it was not until federal troops arrived in Galveston, Texas on June 19th, 1865, so almost 2.5 years later, that slavery was officially ended. U.S. General Gordon Granger stood on Texas soil and read the General Orders Number 3. The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with the proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. And so up until that point, we had enslaved people even after the Emancipation Proclamation came into effect. It was definitely not a magic wand that ended racism and oppression of blacks in America, but there are many blessings that have come in the years since that day. So let's celebrate them for the second year that it has been an official federal holiday. To help us celebrate, we are lucky to have the wonderful Carla Bristol from Southside Bridge program here to do the View from the Pew. She'll get a little bit better introduction when she comes up. Todd Wellman is providing the music along with the help of Rebecca Wilson. Kelly Olson is live streaming. And then our greeters are Susan Benor, Peggy Kane Wood, Karen White, Carol Ulmer, and Jerry. Whew. I didn't have it written down because I didn't know who they were ahead of time, so I think I caught everybody. And then our volunteer is Ariana Drew with Trish Harding supporting her, and Ariana is also going to do the Time for All Ages. So let's take a moment to center ourselves for worship.
Our flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It is a symbol of hope, the sacred, the quest for truth, the warmth of community, the light of reason, and so much more. When John lights our chalice, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. The words can be found in the text chat. If you like, you may choose to follow along with the hand movements. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, but to seek the truth in love and to help one another. And now Rebecca will lead us in hymn number 149 in the gray hymnal. Lift every voice and sing.
They say Rebecca, but it's Rebecca and friends, you know. And plus, I have to say a few words about this. I know this song as the Black National Anthem. According to the website of the NAACP, Lift Every Voice and Sing was written in 1900 as a poem by NAACP leader James Weldon Johnson in 1900. His brother, John Rosamond Johnson, composed the music. The song was first performed in 1905 to celebrate President Abraham Lincoln's birthday in Jacksonville, Florida, by a choir of 500 school children at the segregated Stanton School, where James Weldon Johnson was the principal. I was reading this book by Stacey Abrams. You know, she was the person who ran for governor in 2018 in Georgia. She said, "This is about ensuring that the people who do not think they matter in our system believe that they can lift their voices up." So sing with me.
So I don't know, do we have any children in the sanctuary other than, I see we have some new kiddos. So this is the time normally that we have all the kids come up and we do our time for all ages. You guys don't have to come up. I know you're new and that might be a little nerve-wracking. But I still want to read the story because I think it was a really good one. So today we're celebrating the blessings of good things that have come because of the end of slavery. And so what I'm going to read is part of a children's book written by Nicole Hannah Jones and Renee Watson called Born on the Water. Nicole Hannah Jones wrote an adult version of the story called the 1619 Project, which many people have read. And it tells us how the U.S. allowed slavery to take place here for almost 250 years before it finally ended. And the children's story tells about some of the relatives of those enslaved people, and it's called Legacy. For the people who were born on the water survived, kept living and living. It was illegal to teach enslaved people how to read, but they birthed generations of teachers and librarians, scholars and authors. They were brokenhearted, beaten and bruised, but they became healers, pastors, activists, doctors and counselors. No one could steal the people's joy. They wrote songs, created jazz and hip hop, rhythm and blues. They became inventors and athletes, nurses and cooks, pilots and architects, farmers and housekeepers, singers and artists, dancers and poets, mathematicians and scientists. They passed on their stories through the stitch of a quilt, shared secret messages through songs. The people survived, the people fought. And because the people survived and because the people fought, they finally got freedom. And because the people survived and because the people fought, America has equality in the law. And because the people survived and because the people fought, America began to live up to its promise of democracy. So now, if the children would like, we can go off to RE for any that would like to join us.
Try singing this with me. Go your way in peace, wander as you may. Blessed is the path you take, may love guide you on your way.
So it's the time for joys and concerns and sorrows. Those of you on YouTube, please type your joys and sorrows into the text chat. And those here in the sanctuary, please pass your cards forward if you have any. Carol Ulmer is going to place the stones for us. And we had no joys and concerns sent in, but we do have one that was provided today. Our Friday sunset suppers are filling a great need in our community. We regularly serve 80 to 90 people. Our concern is that we need more donations of food and water, plus volunteers. See Jerry after the service, and Jerry is sitting in the back because she's one of our greeters today. And then we'll place a final stone for those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts. Oh, one more. Welcome. From Christine. Remembering my beloved father, John Weisel. Did I pronounce that right? Weistel, okay. So we will place the final stone for those joys and concerns that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to be spoken out loud. Let us take a moment of silence together. The mystery is that we are connected even when we feel apart. Let us rejoice in our beloved community that makes of many one. So may it be.
join me in singing Spirit of Life, I wanted to tell you, of course, about the background of the hymn. Carolyn McDade wrote this song in the early 1800s as a personal prayer. She is a composer who has many songs in our hymnals, but this song became a favorite among UUs and was eventually included in our gray hymnal. That was back in 1993. So sing it with me. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart the stories of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, rise in the land.
Our Unitarian roots in the work of social justice extend far back into our history. Theodore Parker was a Unitarian minister and a prominent American transcendentalist born in 1810 who called for the abolition of slavery in a sermon entitled "Of Justice and the Conscience." Look at the facts of the world. You see a continual and progressive triumph of the right. I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is a long one. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience, but from what I see, I am sure it bends towards justice. Following are some excerpts for the 1968 sermon, Remaining Awake Through a Great Revolution, that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave at the National Cathedral. It is an unhappy truth that racism is a way of life for the vast majority of white Americans, spoken and unspoken, acknowledged and denied, subtle and sometimes not so subtle. The disease of racism permeates and poisons a whole body politic. And I can see nothing more urgent than for America to work passionately and unrelentingly to get rid of the disease of racism. And I submit that nothing will be done until people of goodwill put their bodies and their souls in motion. And it will be the kind of soul force brought into being as a result of this confrontation that I believe will make the difference. Echoing the words of Theodore Parker, Reverend King gave generations of people hope by declaring, "We shall overcome, because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." It is easy to feel despair today, during this time of dystopia. Our greatest act of social justice may be to affirm that we shall overcome.
Thank you, Sabina. We are really lucky today to have a special visitor for today's View from the Pew. Carla Bristol is an activist, an artist, an educator, and collaborative manager of the St. Pete Youth Farm. Many of us know Carla from our UUSP Southside Bridge monthly program. Our team collects high-protein, non-perishable food donations and drops them off at the farm for distribution to the houseless and those living with food scarcity. They are celebrating 3 years of operations, and the Youth Farm is a unique educational resource and activity center for local teens. Carla personally designs and directs the curriculum that focuses on nutrition, farming, behavioral ethics, mental health, and hygiene. Virginia and Cal have brochures that they'll pass out or have available after our service. So watch her with the kids. You'll see immense admiration and warm relationships. Linda Paul, who's sitting in the sanctuary, recently visited the farm and says, "Go visit, see what this can-do attitude created, and you'll come away uplifted." If you mention Carla's name, you'll hear such things as inexhaustible energy, the heart of the South Side, a St. Pete force. All this, and she was a top vote getter for the Grand Marshal of this year's Pride Parade. So a huge thanks and welcome for giving us her time. She's got a busy day today, and here's Carla, and you can use the...
So first and foremost, happy Pride. So I did put myself on a timer because you guys know Miss Virginia doesn't play at all. So thank you so much for that introduction. I've lived in St. Petersburg for 26 years, just about, and I could tell you that one person, any one of you, can make a difference. The work we're doing for food and nutrition insecurity is amplified by the work you guys have all done and the dedication of Cal and Miss Virginia. I mean, what's important is that you said that how excited you were that I've been coming to you today. But if you truly want to help someone, you go where they are, not ask them to come to you. So thank you for, I think it's been 2 years, I don't know, it's been a while in COVID days, that you've been coming to us and helping us right where we are. When you talk about access, I know many of us, because we have transportation or we're from other places, so journeying around St. Pete is nothing for us. But for so many that live within the South St. Petersburg CRA or the community redevelopment area, access is not something that's so accessible. So I really want to talk about access being accessible, because how we look at things and how things really are very different. So the fact that we're on less than an acre of land, we've started growing food only about 1.5 years ago is when we started cultivating that land. And now some of you that'll show up tomorrow will get to see our hydroponics, our aquaponics. Thank you guys for the plants. They showed up, I think it was Wednesday, I don't know, Wednesday, to drop off food, and then went from dropping off food to, what do you need? Oh, you need lettuce? That would have been one other thing that I needed to do. They stopped everything else they were doing, and they went to they said, where would you go? I'm like, Willow Tree. They changed and shifted their day and went to Willow Tree, picked up the lettuces that were needed, and brought them back. And now it makes the greenhouse ready for our event tomorrow. So thank you. I hope you know how impactful your work is, not just you two, but everyone else that has donated. It was incredible during the Christmas holiday to see the varying gifts that you guys shared, and the cookies, and the kids loved it. You guys allow us to provide additional options. So when those packages come and there's all these treats, and we have, especially juices, because it's hot out there. We finally got a fridge, we have electricity now, so that's good, because now we'll have ices and other things for the young people. But they're learning and they're developing, and every single day, every action that we take takes us closer to our young people being sustainable. So I told someone the other day, when it's inevitable, because we live in Florida and we live in St. Petersburg, that storms will come. But I do believe that the young people that we engage with at the farm are far more equipped to deal, because we're cooking outside, we're growing food. They know how to go get a food. They are learning how to create meals, and it's something that, aside from that and financial planning, and they write for the Weekly Challenger newspaper, And I just went over to the Burning Spear and talked about them writing for that newspaper as well. Their articles are in the Catalyst. This is a dynamic. I think when you start with the idea that we're already in not an area of need, but an area of exceptional talent and wealth, I think we're able to expose everyone else to that. So we're grateful. Thank you. You can find out more information about us on stpeteyouthfarm.org. Ms. Virginia will have the brochures in the back. Come out tomorrow for our Juneteenth event and ribbon cutting for the greenhouse. And we just encourage you to continue to follow and keep sending us the snacks. We appreciate it very much. So I'm not a youth. I'm somehow the youth whisperer at almost 54 years old. So I want to tell you guys thanks and keep it up. And you have 18 seconds left on your time. Thank you, Ms. Virginia.
Yep. Next up is hymn number. It's Little Light of Mine, and it is
Number 118.
118.
But of course, I want to tell you about it. I always want to tell you about the composer. The composer of this song is unknown, but the song was sung by a few people you recognize: Sister Rosetta Tharpe, godmother of rock and roll, Zilphia Horton, Fannie Lou Hamer, and others. It eventually became a civil rights anthem in the 1950s and 60s. And Odetta and the Boys Choir of Harlem performed the song on The Late Show with David Letterman on September 17th, 2001, which was the first show after Letterman resumed broadcasting after the events of 9/11. So let's sing this.
I know because of the transition team's report last week what some of you may be thinking. Some of you are listening and looking forward to another social justice themed reflection on the topic of race and racism. And then some of you are listening and silently groaning. If you're on YouTube, you may be audibly groaning because you just want a nice thought-provoking reflection that you can ponder upon throughout the day. So I can say that I think I can deliver on the thought-provoking part, but I don't know what your definition of nice is, so I may not hit that. I honestly get it. It is uncomfortable to talk about and think about racism and white privilege. It can feel like you're being accused of being a racist yourself when you know that you're not. You may say that you don't see the color of one's skin. You may support Black Lives Matter. You have friends that are black. Our church is a welcoming church where we include everyone regardless of gender, sexual orientation, race, or physical ability. To most of those comments, I would say fantastic. Those are nice thoughts and ideas, but how committed to the cause are you? How do your actions show a belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person? How are we doing on achieving peace, liberty, and justice for all? If we are being honest, if I'm being honest, I think we have a ways to go before reaching the first and sixth principles. And to say that I don't see color is to say that I'm denying the identity and the culture of blacks and other people of color. Again, let's be honest. Talking about race is not easy, it's not fun, it makes us feel uncomfortable, and again, it makes us feel like we're being accused of racism. It does all those things and more, and it should not be an easy conversation. If it was an easy conversation, we would have solved racism eons ago. But ignoring it, because it makes us feel bad, is a luxury that oppressed people don't get. So many people maybe don't understand the concept of white privilege. It's hard for us to understand because it's intrinsic due to our upbringing. Here are a few examples of privilege. I never had to learn about white American history because our textbooks really only focus on that white history. Blacks are mentioned in relationship to the Civil War and the 1960s, but any history book, they don't seem to exist outside of that. When I go to Walgreens to buy shampoo and conditioner for my hair, I still have it, my brother doesn't, and he's not here to defend himself. But I have an entire aisle to choose from. I don't have to look for that 2-foot wide section dedicated to ethnic hair. When someone describes my vocabulary, they typically don't say, "Boy, he is so eloquent and well-spoken." My dad never gave me the talk on how to behave when the police pull me over for driving in a car that seems to be too nice for me. And I don't get followed around in a department store. I have a good friend, Edwin. His family fled New Caledonia in the South Pacific when he was 4 years old. He'd been shot during a political upheaval. Again, 4 years old. His father was from the islands and his mother was Syrian. They immigrated to the US. Now, Edwin grew up extremely privileged. He went to boarding school in England, had incredible education with outside tutors, and he holds multiple master's degrees. He plays the cello, and he has played in symphonies on every continent except for Antarctica. But he's black in appearance. He has been stopped by police multiple times for the crime of walking down the street. Twice, he has had women call the police claiming that he has stolen their dog. He's got this very cute little toy dog. But twice, white women have called the police, and I think apparently just because they wanted the dog, and that was a way to get the dog, if they could accuse him of stealing it. Never in my life would that happen to me. I don't have his education or privilege, upbringing. So white privilege doesn't mean that I have more things than somebody else. It just means that I'm treated better for the sole reason of being white. I don't have to deal with those other issues. So I'm going to go back to this feeling of uncomfortableness. Here's a personal example of being uncomfortable and ashamed. Our family history on both sides goes back to the pre-Revolutionary War. My ancestors fought in that war, but on my mother's side, they also fought in the War of Northern Aggression. They enslaved people. My fourth great-grandfather, John Edwards, was born in 1752. He fought in the Revolutionary War. For a while, he lived in Culpeper County, Virginia. Later, he moved to Oglethorpe County in Georgia, and then finally to Perry County in Alabama, where he lived until his death in 1843. I want to read an excerpt of his last will and testament. I give to my beloved wife, Susanna Edwards, the plantation which I now live with a tract of quarter section of land and the additional lot on which my buildings are placed during her natural life with all and singular appurtenance thereunto belonging, and the Negroes George, Charlotte, Jarrett, Judea, Tam, and Melinda, and also my household and kitchen furniture with plantation tools, except for such articles that may be hereafter accepted. I'm going to interrupt for a second and just think about that. Those enslaved peoples were listed alongside household belongings. 1, I give to my son William Edwards a Negro boy named Matt. 2, I give to my son Reuben Edwards a Negro boy named Joe. 3, I give to my daughter Sally Bennett a Negro girl named Fanny. 4, I give to my daughter Betsy Phillips during her natural lifetime and after her decease to her children a Negro girl named Grace and a Negro child named Eliza, and the increase of said Negro girl which may be. 5, I give to my son John Edwards a Negro girl named Nisi. 6, I give to my daughter Susanna Johnson a Negro girl named Hannah. 7, I give to my daughter, who this happens to be my third great-grandmother, Tabitha Aycock, a Negro girl named Rosetta. 8, I give to my son James Edwards the Negro boy named Britton and a boy named Jack and a Negro man named Jeff, a brown mare, a red mare, and furniture and land and improvements which I have given to my wife during her life, I give to my said son, James, after her death. 9, the Negroes which I have given to my wife during her lifetime, with the increase, if any there may be, with all the balance of my estate, the land given to my son James accepted, I will be equally divided amongst my heirs. It is difficult to be online and read a will that's handwritten that has those words. To say that it makes me uncomfortable is an understatement. But I can guarantee that my uncomfortableness is microscopic in comparison to what those enslaved people had to endure under my ancestors. DNA is this powerful tool. I suspected it, and testing confirmed it. But some of my male ancestors, most likely at least one of Tabitha's brothers, raped the women they enslaved and produced offspring. I'm at 23 black relatives and counting. I need to proceed slowly with this knowledge. Those relatives know how they came to be. They get the same report when they get their DNA testing as I do. They know I exist. How do they feel about that? There are numerous organizations that work to unite ancestors that are interested in meeting. There is a socially aware method for doing genealogy work, a method that helps blacks trace their ancestry back at least until the time they arrived in the States. I'm committed to this socially aware method. I'd like to meet some of those relatives in time, but only if they are open to it. I don't want to cause more damage or harm in their life. So, I ask you, as fellow UUs that believe in the current 7 principles, please go home and look in the mirror and reflect upon your feelings. Read to expand your knowledge. Of race, of privilege, of oppression. Count that uncomfortableness you feel as a true blessing. Use that energy, that blessing, to figure out what you can do to address your racial bias. We each have some level of racism. We have it because we have spent a lifetime following the norms created by white America. That is normal. But understand that it doesn't need to be normal. Believe a black person when they express their experiences with oppression. Don't discount it. We need to educate ourselves. It's not their responsibility to educate us. We need to unlearn behavior. It is a lifelong process, one that will never end. But if we don't start it, where are we? I know that each of you are capable of doing this work. You wouldn't be you if you didn't want to change the world. So again, please look at yourself, and on this Juneteenth, celebrate the blessings that you may not know you have, and take that energy and work for a better world. I really thank you for indulging me, for listening to me. It's a hard place to be. But again, thank you so much for coming today and listening.
Thank you, John. You're an amazing example of living our principles. Now let us remember our connection to one another, and let us not forget our contributions to support the means to those connections. If you are a newcomer here, Ashley, please refrain from making a donation. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. The offering will now be given and received.
Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you heard something that challenges your thinking, that aids you in your spiritual journey, or eases your mind in these stressful times. Now feel free to follow along with the hand gestures as Sabine extinguishes our chalice. The words to UUSP's traditional chalice extinguishing are in your order of service and online in the text chat. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please remain seated for the postlude until the postlude is finished. You can join us next door for coffee hour. So go in peace, and thank you.